We're so happy to be here. May the Lord God be with you in all his graces and his angels.
Okay, well, we actually are recording now. So Andre and I here, we are going to have a chit chat because we haven't caught up with each other to discuss our feelings and thoughts about what's happening. So we thought we'd record this just to add you all into our little feelings of what's happening, because we all know that most of you are having the same thoughts and feelings too, and we want you to feel just as normal as we are. So whatever that means. How you going, Andre?
Oh, hi there, Joe. I'm doing great. Um, yes, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. And so, just to let people know, this is we're not going to be doing any sessions. It's just our conscious minds. So this is kind of like a disclosure. This is conscious mind conversations here. There is no divine information from any of our higher selves or any collectives. So leave now at your free will.
Yeah. But I think it'll be really interesting. You know, the whole point of this is so that we can share our experience um with the people who listen to the videos, because it's really important that I think we're sharing our experiences with each other, because we're all going through this together.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah, it's the whole, QHHT and these quantum sessions are amazing because just the whole experience is quite surreal. I don't know if everyone has had them, but I mean, do you want to talk about what your expectations were about having a session, Andre? Because you've been listening for a while, hadn't you? You've been listening to these sessions for a while, and then you got a session.
Well, not that long before I had my first session. I think for about a month before I had my first session, and I was aware of Dolores Cannon. I was aware of what QHHT was, um, but I'd never seen it being done or heard it being done. I'd only read the books. So I was hearing all this stuff, and this amazing information coming out, and I'm thinking, wow. Um, and I just found myself sort of resonating with what I was hearing, and it not really, what's the word, worrying me like it could have. I started listening to the sessions more and more and more, and it started getting like to the point where I would wake up out of my bed an hour early just to hear the next session to see if when I got up. So I wanted to do my own session. So I emailed you, Joanne, and asked for a session, thinking there's no way this girl in New Zealand is gonna message me back like to do a session, and you did. Um, and part of my session was to sort of figure out all this sort of information in relation to me and my experience and what I'm going to be experiencing. Um, so what I was expecting really from the session, well, I didn't really know what to expect, honestly. Um, Actually doing the session is completely different to how I had thought the sessions worked. Um, with the sense that I thought like when you do the sessions, you're in this like hypnotic trance state where you're kind of unconscious. And you sort of wake up and you don't really know anything of what has just happened or transpired, that it all just comes out through you in some way. And that is what happens, but you're not unconscious. You're using your conscious mind to give the information that's coming through you. So that was first of all the biggest shock for me, and the thing I had to sort of let my guard down quite quickly into the session to just trust, because you were so great as well, because you made me feel really at ease, and you told me exactly what to expect, with regards to that issue of what I thought it was going to happen, and what it actually was in reality. So I was able to kind of like release into it a little bit more. Um, so is that kind of enough about that, or?
Yeah, yeah. It's, in terms of your belief systems that you had, did you? I mean, let's be honest here. Some of the stuff, even though it felt within you like it wasn't a surprise. It was like you had this inner knowing that what the information was actually really resonating with you at a higher level that you were sort of hadn't really experienced before. But what percentage of you, to be honest, were you kind of like, I'm going to do the session and the real truth is going to come out, and this kind of stuff's a bit batshit crazy. And so I'm going to have a session to kind of really double check and test if this information's true. Because I mean, I know I have had my own personal sessions where I'm like, okay, come on, guys, like what's happening here? Like confirmation. So, did your belief systems change at all, or was it confirmation? Like the information you got from your sessions, how did that leave you feeling afterwards?
Okay, so my awakening was, I think I'm about 2 years into it now. Before which I wasn't really very spiritual at all, but was always really interested in psychics and stuff like that. Always sort of believed, but of course was real skeptical as well. And then when I found out that I was a medium, obviously with developing that, my belief systems changed, and over the course of sort of the last 2 years, I've become really open-minded and really devoutly, I won't say devoutly spiritual, but you know, I live my life by the teachings of spiritualism, you know. So I went into the session with this like super open mind, and when I was listening to the sessions, I actually, there was just no doubt at all in my mind anyway when I listened to the sessions, because it just sounded, it just resonated with me, and I remember that feeling of just sort of, all of a sudden I had heard all the sessions, and I just believed and knew that we were going to this new earth. And I don't really remember thinking, no, that's crazy, that's crazy. It just sort of resonated with me, and I just felt like the information coming out was truth. Because when I do watch other channels, sometimes I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that really, really resonates. But also sometimes I think, actually, you know what, that doesn't resonate quite as much. And it tends to be quite a good instinctual sort of gut feeling. So I take from things what I want and what resonates, and I'm able to sort of just think, actually, you know what, I don't believe that that's right for me in my reality or my truth. But everything that was said in the sessions, as I was listening before my first session, it rang really, really true to me. So that was really interesting. And then when I had my actual session, so you know, you go through the process of the session, and it's sort of split into two halves. One of which is sort of getting you to the point where you're able to sort of let your conscious mind sort of relax, so you can have the information come through. And there's a lot of visualization of in the first bit. And as I was in the session, I remember thinking, I'm still awake. I can hear everything. I wanted to know that I can hear everything. And then of course is that you have to really allow yourself to trust, and to sink into that state of complete relaxation. And it's done as well by the sort of the words you use, and the sort of I guess we'll call it the script. Um, and now we've done so many sessions, we have like that the keyword that we use, so we can get into that state quicker, knowing what to expect. But in the first session, of course, I believe you need that script, because it sort of takes you off on the journey that you need to go on. And then of course, once I had my first session, I remember getting up after it and talking to you before we said goodbye, and thinking, I don't really, I'm not sure if I was making that up. It seemed like I was just talking and things were coming to me and I was saying them, but I was really, really conscious, and I don't really know what to make of this. And then of course you were like, listen to it back and then you'll see. So I listened to it back, and when I was channeling one thing, I sounded one way. When I was channeling my higher self, I sounded one way, my subconscious a different way. And when I channeled in a loved one in spirit, and she sounded completely different. And when I listened to it back, I remember thinking, oh my God, like that was really like cool, the way the way I had gotten to the point where I was so relaxed that the information could just flow through me, and I really noticed the change in energies coming in. That was the thing for me that was really mind-blowing.
Yeah, you don't notice it when you're in the session, because you're so relaxed. And the bonus about being in these sessions is that you don't get to think. Your mind's kind of, your judging mind is kind of numb a bit. You're in a very, very, very deep state of relaxation, and so you're just flowing through that information, and you're not able to really stop and think and judge it and notice this stuff, even though you're very much aware you're in the session. It's fantastic. And I keep saying to people that you're experiencing the session today, And when you listen back to the session, that's actually the true session that you will be experiencing for the first time with your conscious mind alert and awake and aware of stuff. So yeah, it's really cool. But and so how did you feel when you started listening back to the session and hearing the confirmation that, yep, you're going in December and you're going to New Earth and a whole lot of that sort of stuff? Did it make it feel, were you a little bit shocked? Is it uncomfortable to hear it, that it's actually applying, the information is applying to yourself?
So after the first session, I mean, I remember in the session they said he's going to listen to this a million times. Won't stop listening to it. And I remember thinking the next morning, I don't know if I can listen to the session actually, because I just not sure. Like I was so conscious. And they had said one thing to me in the session. They had been giving me lots of cool energy feelings, feelings of energy and lots of cool sensations. And I remember that really vividly, actually. And they said, when you find you're not trusting the information, and when you find you're not trusting yourself or the work, remember the feelings of that energy that we gave you in your session, and remember how real it was and how profound it was. And that will always bring you back into trusting the power of the energies, and what you're doing. So it took me actually a while to listen back, because I was a bit unsure of myself. And because, you know what, when you hear someone else do it, you think, yeah, that's great, I trust the information, it's amazing. Like, that's definitely not them speaking, especially now that I know you, Kane, and Jess, and the people who are doing the sessions. I know what you're like in real life, and it's different when you're in the session. But when it's your own session, of course, and you come out of it, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And I think it's harder to trust the information you get in your own session because you're so conscious, than it is when you're watching someone else's session. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, our very helpful conscious mind doesn't try to sabotage anything that happens in our lives, right? So, yeah. Mr. Helpful Conscious Mind comes in to, save us from overthinking or worrying or processing anything or doing any of that stuff. So a lot of people go into a little bit of shock, I think, after their sessions, because while it's interesting to hear about other people's journeys and what they're going to do in December and where they're going to go, if they're going to go to their home planet or if they're going to go to New Earth. I mean, we're all so excited and feel happy. And when you're listening to other people's sessions, you get this elevated emotions through it because they are in an elated state. So it's quite a fun little journey to listen to. So then when you have your own session and you do want to know this information and how it applies to yourself. And so then when, people finally get over that, oh my God, I just made that whole thing up. That was such a stupid thing. I mean, for me personally, when I had my first session, I was like, what a jerk I am. Like, how did this stuff come out of my mouth? That was ridiculous. I was so embarrassed. And it took me a while to listen back to it. And I still was like, what a doof. Seriously, how did I sabotage that session so much? I was so frustrated with myself. And at that point, I'd already done 40 sessions for other people. Like, I fully believe this work. I trust this work. I have, dragged friends kicking and screaming to do this work, I love this work. But when it came to my very first session, I felt exactly the same way that what you have just described, is that I made all of that up. Somehow that shit just came rolling out of my mouth and I didn't even want to listen to it because I was so embarrassed. And then when I finally had to get over it and listen, I was like, oh my goodness, no, that's not my conscious mind. That's definitely something else. And it was so profound. And I was like, if I thought that way all the time, I would have zero problems. I freaking loved it. And I had to get over myself, that's for sure. But then when you hear this information about, we're leaving Earth and all that sort of stuff, it kind of comes a bit surreal. We actually have to process that and plan for that and not get triggered. And how did you find yourself having to process all that information personally?
So the actual okay, yes. I'm trying to think back to how I actually, hearing the information for the first time is actually a blur to me. I don't remember the exact moment I heard it for the first time. But I remember thinking, Oh, do you know what it was? Yes. I was like looking for like the longest sessions to listen to because I didn't realize that they had like a sequence. Um, and I just wanted to like zen out, listen to a session, chillax, and have it on sort of like while I was laying next to it in the bed or whatever. So I think there was a point in one of the things in one of the sessions where someone talked about um, when you're on the new Earth and when you leave this planet. I was like, sorry. So what have I missed here? And I went back through all the sessions trying to find this information. And I said, you know what, screw this. I listened to the first one of these types of sessions on the page. Um, but because I had already heard bits of it, and then sort of, I was already sort of prepared for hearing the information for the first time, if that makes sense. And actually, first there was a lot of acceptance for some reason. I had done a lot of work in my sort of spiritual awakening, we'll call it, at acceptance and trying to flow with the universe and knowing that whatever happens is happening for the highest good and it's all sort of in divine timing. And I do a lot of work on that because I'm a real someone who gets in my head a lot. So I have to do a lot of that work to just remember and to coach myself into a place where I'm in this sort of like more of a flowy state. um the what was hard to process for me was, am I good enough to be on the new earth? Is it going to be me? Am I going to be able to go, or am I going to be stuck here on the old earth? And that for me was really hard to deal with because I've not had like the most like I don't know, the what will I say, the I've not been an angel in this life, we'll say, and I've had ups and downs and I've had amazing times and really dark times. And um I sort of, at the time I was thinking, oh my God, but I did this and I swear when I talk and I was mean to my father the other day. And, stuck my middle finger up at a car coming by me. I didn't really, but you know what I mean? Like these things.
That sounds like stuff that they say to us. This is, we're judging ourselves for being human, and are you going to react the same way given that chance? You're releasing. We're all having to experience stuff, and we're all trying to jam pack as much learning lessons as possible in this lifetime. So can you stop beating yourself up about being human and celebrate all the lessons you've overcome, and you're able to look at the bigger purpose of things.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the biggest things I have got from all the sessions that I've done, is that it's not about being perfect. It's not that at all. It's about living your life as you were supposed to, and to learn lessons, have amazing highs, but also the really extreme lows, and to release the crap that you've built up over many lifetimes. If you've been here for many lifetimes, because it's not just this life you've got to deal with all your stuff. You've got stuff that I know I've taken on from other lifetimes that I'm dealing with in this life, because this is it. This is like, this is the one to do it, where you've got to get rid of all that stuff. So it's no surprise to me that in this life I've not been perfect and I've had, really low lows and really high highs. And I can almost see from the sessions, especially my first session, I can almost see and pinpoint the parts of my life where I have made transitions into a new way of life or had new beginnings. And I see all the situations for what they are and why they brought me to different places. And I'm seeing that as part of the sessions. And it's something that it's helping me trust, but it's also ruining my trust at the same time, because I'm not ruining my trust, but it also makes me worry at the same time, is what I mean. Is that everything's unfolding for a specific reason, and everything has to lead to another point to get to another point to get to another point for something to happen. So as we're seeing the events start to unfold in our day-to-day lives, with all the stuff that's going on around the world, having done all these sessions, I'm starting to understand this pattern of things needing to happen for things to happen subsequently. And that was a real good lesson for my life. And it made me look back at my life thinking, I totally see where, at what point my life had to change in that moment, and where it led me to this moment, and why I met that person at this moment that led me to this moment. So that's been a really big thing for the sessions. I'm not sure if that's the question you asked me, but
and I think this is where we are right now, isn't it? Is this is holding place of, we know that for a lot of people, they need to experience what they're experiencing right now in terms of the election, to be able to learn all of those lessons. And while we're all waiting for everyone to awaken, the final timeline from, according to these sessions, is December the 21st, 22nd, depending on what timeline you're on. Sorry, what time zone you're on. And so, while we're wanting everyone to wake up immediately, and that would be bloody fantastic if anyone's listening and it wants to be encouraged by that, please do. Tell your friends. No, I'm joking, because it's, we're putting too much pressure on. And if these people are stubborn, or they are desperately needing to do it their own way, us, being impatient around them is never going to help them. I don't think I would have naturally woken with someone down my throat trying to tell me and convince me that I'm all wrong. That would have made me go in the opposite direction. So, it's when you're looking at it from the bigger picture, this is beautifully giving everyone the opportunity to awaken naturally. While it's very painfully slow on other, from my perspective, it feels like torture in some ways emotionally, because people are still struggling. So I don't even know what the question is now. Can you remind me?
I've forgotten it. But I've actually got a question for you, Jo. Because, you as a practitioner, first of all, I've never seen someone so devoted to their work for the right reasons as you. You really genuinely do care about the people that are listening, and that's something I really admire about you. And how does it feel for you as a practitioner and someone that feels that this is part of their mission, to be doing this kind of work, and seeing what's going on right now with relation to everything, and then your own sessions?
Well, first of all, it's always been an amazing honor and privilege to meet every single person I have done a session with. For them to be so vulnerable, and makes me want to cry. They share their most beautiful and their most hardship times in their lives with me, because they want to find out the purpose and the lessons that they needed to. I have heard the most beautiful stories. I've heard the most heartbreaking stories, and working with them so closely to gain their trust, so they can get so relaxed. So then, when we call on the higher self, we can get that healing done. It's just an amazing roller coaster to go with the clients, and it is just such a privilege to be able to help not only my clients, but we can ask for healing for not just their current family and their friends and everyone that they have to work and coexist with, but all of the family and friends that they've had in any other lifetimes. So I kind of feel like I sneak in some extra healing to everyone as much as possible. So, it is amazing to be able to do this work. It is truly a life's privilege and honor. And I, always dedicate this to Dolores Cannon, who had probably the most diligence and passion for this work. And so, trying to honor her and to continue on her path, as I know as many practitioners are trying to do the same thing, So, Dolores had this big thing about never watching the news because she knew it was so corrupt. And so had its own agenda. And she always used to say to do your own research. And, I did. When I first started doing QHHT, I was so completely diligent and loyal to it. And then I started having to ask some really hard questions that I didn't want to ask, like, should this work be done online? Because, I valued her work and I valued her word so much. And when I had to call her in and ask in a session what were her thoughts about doing this online, boy, did I get a bollocksing. The fact that I even had to question whether this work should be helping other people through this time. And with this technology, it was kind of obvious. And obviously I wasn't using my common sense to even have to ask her. And I had to ask her a few times, because I was like, with different clients, because I just wanted to make sure this wasn't me with my wishful hoping that I could help as many people as I could. Living in New Zealand is very limited to being able to reach. I have clients all around the world. I have done so many clients in different countries. It has been a blessing and an honor to be able to reach people through the internet. And, I just can't stop. I can't stop wanting to help people. And they keep saying to me, when I was asking, they're like, why do you have to ask Dolores Cannon? This is our work. Who do you think gave this work to Dolores Cannon? We did. And so I was like, oh my gosh, here I am diligently respecting what I considered my guru, my leader in this field. And then they lovingly kind of, slapped me on the bum and was like, kind of wake up, this is more than just Dolores Cannon's work here. This is all of our work here. And they sort of said, if we bring anyone to you, you must do that. You must do this session. We haven't accidentally merged you two people together, without any reason. And there's been many lessons that I had to learn with many clients, and using boundaries and my intuition has been a real blessing for it. So I have been on a journey, let me tell you. And so the hardest thing is when, you become really close with your clients and you love them because they've opened up themselves to you, and, you see how beautiful they are and how they truly care for humanity as well. And, it's honestly like so many times I just think when I finish a session, I feel so privileged to know that person. And it gives me such beautiful hope for humanity to know that there are just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gems in this world. It is such a blessing. But then on the flip side, when they get triggered and they lose hope a little bit and they get so despair and they go into fear again, it's like, it's so painful. Life is so painful when we're living in fear and when we feel like we're alone and we're not being looked after. And like, I have never really resonated with a one God as such, even though when I was a little child, I used to talk to God all the time. I never really pictured him really as a man in a white beard kind of, playing with us. So yeah, there's a lot going on in my head. And I just know that for us, knowing what we know and what is about to happen seems so crazy, seems so surreal, almost impossible. But then I never came into this work thinking, right, well, I'm going to start convincing everyone that this is going to happen. We have to evacuate the planet. I had no clue about any of this. And while I have got all of Dolores Cannon's books, I haven't read all of them. I've got 3 to go. And every sort of now and then I will start a new book and it kind of opens up my world differently and it's all perfectly unfolded. But I had no clue about the new earth. I had no clue about a whole lot of stuff. When I first started doing these sessions, I had worries. I had worries about vaccinations. I had worries about 5G. I had worries about a whole lot of stuff. And, working with other practitioners and with clients who had the same worries, it was fantastic to be able to find out, a dozen times 2 clients, higher self, saying the same thing about 5G. Saying the same thing about vaccinations and saying the same things about a whole lot of worries and concerns. And it just gave me great comfort to know that, while it's scary to find the truth, what if something was going to really harm humanity? That would be horrific. I had to keep asking and finding the truth and comforting myself. Remember, I've got little children. I need to be comfortable knowing that we're in a safe world. And then the reality is actually we're not really in a safe world. Everything's killing us and poisoning us and controlling us. It's fantastic. But I'm happy to live in that world if it is okay and safe, but it really isn't. And now I've kind of been dragged kicking and screaming to actually understand the true dire state of the earth. And when I talk to my mummy friends and, we share our work stories, I can't really talk to them anymore about any of the sort of stuff I'm going through. Because while it was really cute and fun to talk about purposes and lessons for some of my clients and exploring a whole lot of stuff, because they actually originally were my first clients, it's hard to share the information. Not that I gossip about my client sessions, because I don't, but it's more about figuring out the purpose of some things. It seems consistent when people have affairs in relationships. It's actually you've found your past wife or husband in a previous lifetime, and you've got these other connections and you're trying to resolve the karma from that. So I found that a few times. So it's just interesting, some of the stuff that has come out through sessions that trying to understand the purpose of life and what it truly means to be living here and what are we supposed to be doing here and exploring and learning from here. And yeah, there's so much to unpack and process myself with these sessions. My biggest concern is that the sessions that get shared publicly have big missing holes. I hear so much private information in sessions that I probably don't really know if there is enough information in the public sessions to cover everything. And so sometimes I would feel like I'd be saying to people, it's in the sessions, listen back, it's in the sessions. I know that there is a majority of information on the sessions, but publicly, but I do have a little bit of a worry that a lot of the stuff that I think is out in public is really just in private sessions. So it's hard. But then also I know that when people are like, I've listened to your sessions, you have to listen back to them a few times to hear the layers of information that's there. While we are all here listening to their information, it's guaranteed that each time you listen to a session that you've already listened to, you're going to hear it from a new perspective. So it's really important to keep that in mind. But also, I mean, who's got time to keep listening to these sessions? It feels like there's millions of them and millions of hours, and who's got that time? Not me.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And it is remarkable, actually, how you can go back and listen to a session that you have already listened to and hear a completely different information. It happened to me a few times. And and sometimes, what I find is when I'm a bit bored, or what I've started doing now is on the way to work. So I've listened to all the sessions like a gazillion times, but on the way to work, I'll just choose a random session and listen to 20 minutes of it on the way to work and 20 minutes of it on the way back. And that's another session covered, but I will be hearing it differently in the car as to how I would have heard it a million times before. So that's a really interesting point. And I suppose, what about, as a practitioner who both gives sessions, we'll say, and practitioner and someone who actually does the sessions, am I making sense, who actually has the session, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who has never been a practitioner, from the practitioner's point of view of someone who's in a session? A tough question, sorry. I just
well, I think first of all, to be, in my humble opinion, to be a good practitioner, you truly have to care about the other person. You truly have to listen to what they're going through and really get a sense of who they are without having any judgment, and be able to hold space for them and purely nurture them, while without kind of someone who's in a victim mode state, for example, you can't keep like encouraging them to be a victim mode and like, it sucks for you, you're never going to get better. Like you've got to really be neutral and open to hearing everything that they're going through, and be very genuine about it. Because once you're in a session, for the client, if that practitioner is not really that interested in the session, you can feel it. So it's you've got to really fully trust the practitioner. I don't know if that's kind of the question you're.
No, yeah, but more advice from the perspective of a practitioner, for someone who's doing doing a session, like going under, we'll say, is sort of what I meant. But that's actually, does that make sense?
Do you want to find out, like, are you asking me the difference between being a practitioner and a client?
So like I'm a new client, and I'm about to go for my first session. What would you, from the practitioner's point of view, say to me to make the session the best it could be? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah. So make the session the best you could be is to be able to trust that you can relax into that state. So I hate the word hypnotizing. Actually, I mean, I know that hate's a strong word, but it's because people have assumptions of what it is. And so what you really are is in a very deep state of relaxation. You've been training for this your entire life. You wake up and you go to sleep. And just before you wake up and just before you sleep, you're in that very deep, relaxed state. And that's the state that we work in. And so you're not hypnotized as such, but you're in a very no worries kind of state of mind. And so everyone has been training to do this. So a lot of people have the assumption that, I'm going to totally make you fall asleep, and then I'm going to squeeze all this gossip and juice from you, from your higher self, and then you're going to wake up and be completely oblivious to it. And then voila, here's all the answers to the universe that you need. And so a lot of people's assumptions are, quite, they kind of block themselves a little bit, because no, I can still hear you, Joanne. No, I'm telling you, Joe, I'm still here. And it's like, where do you think you go in these sessions? And it's just our conscious mind trying to control stuff. And that is fine. Everyone's got their limit of where they need to control stuff. Surrendering into the session is always the best. But if you are holding back, worried that your subconscious is going to tell me how many times you've masturbated and stole, when you were a child, cookies from Nana's jar, you're going to not be relaxed enough, because you'll be terrified of the gossip. But the subconscious has never told me anything private. It's always been trying to protect you. And like these sessions, they never tell you anything more than you can't handle. And so I think we've got to be really conscious of this when we're listening to other people's sessions. The subconscious will never tell someone anything that they're not ready to handle. And so, we have to then work out what that person can and can't handle. So that information may not be really resonating with us, because it seems like it may be limited. And so that's your answer. That person may be in a 4D mindset, for example. And when we have the bigger picture looking back, we can have sympathy and understand where everyone is, where we've already grown from. And so, is it because we've outgrown them and we already know that there is bigger information, or is it the case that they're already advanced and we can't see up that ladder, shall we say? So it's understanding the information that's given in these sessions is really, it's very helpful, but we must use our own intuition to find out what's the truth for us, because there are definitely different mindsets that are out there, and we have to empower ourselves and not rely on these sessions or anyone else's information to find and lead us the right truth. And it's so hard. Sometimes we want to just have the easy path and be given all the information and the answers, and actually the purpose of life is for us to do that for ourselves. And that feels sometimes really hard, and like too much homework. And, we're a little bit lazy sometimes when we want just, everything handed to us.
Yeah, totally. You just want something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good advice. And a really good point, I think. Yeah, really good point. And that's probably the hardest part, is then it's trusting yourself, then trusting your own intuition as to what feels right for you.
Yeah, and like they keep constantly saying, to the point where I was like, oh my God, come on guys, like you guys are just repeating yourselves now. This sounds so generic, when they keep saying, love yourself. And I was like, what are you, Hallmark cards? Like, come on, it sounds so cheesy. And then, I kept asking like my clients, like, what are you really resonating with this stuff? Is this like working for you guys, or, is it too repetitive? And people were like, I love the confirmation and the reminders. This is really, really important. I need to be reminded this. And I need someone to tell me every day that I must love myself. And I was like, whoa, like, yeah, that's, I've got insecurities as well. I don't want to like bother anyone with information that I'm getting. And, I certainly am not holding anyone hostage to listen to their sessions by any stretch of the imagination. But it's just good to know that people do need this encouragement and this support and this information to nurture them and empower them, because it really is about empowering ourselves. And we are totally lovable, and we deserve to love ourselves and forgive ourselves for the lessons we have learned, because there is no good or bad. And, I really want to unpack and trust all the information that they're sharing with us, because they're not coming from a hidden agenda to like trick us, and then hello, New World Order comes and like, I don't want to say anything naughty, but gets us. Like, that's definitely fear-based bullshit if I've ever heard it. And it's not possible that that is going to be the outcome. I wouldn't be here on this world, in this planet. My children definitely would not be here if this was going to be the outcome of our lives. It's just nonsense. There is no true purpose. I mean, while I have to accept that there is good, valid reasons why people want to be on the old earth, I mean, good luck to them. Not my choice. I don't think I need to be a superhero and experience that hardship. I feel like this lifetime right now is pretty much hardship, and I'm done. I'll be happy with that badge when I graduate, But yeah, it doesn't make sense that the New World Order would kick in. Doesn't make sense that our complete control. I don't know. In terms of the information that comes from sessions, I really would love to see the broadcast. I think it would be amazing, but I still can't understand how it's all going to play out and unfold. And, I don't want to keep my hopes up. I'm in definite neutral emotions about that. I want people to wake up naturally and have that accomplishment. I also know how hard things are. I know how hard and how deep people are in trauma. So I have great, deep compassion for them, while I'm also trying not to be impatient and have my hands on my hips, tapping my fingers, going, are we here yet? Come on, guys. But I understand it's all purposeful. And when you realize, this is my understanding, that the whole purpose of this lifetime is to really master the lower emotions and to pick yourselves up from those lower emotions, makes a lot of sense what we're experiencing. But I don't think that, that this planet turning into some sort of torturous hell would be any benefits for anyone else. And for my opinion, the New World Order would be that definition. But maybe I'm just a judgy bitch.
Well, they have said in many sessions now that they can't affect our free will. They can't intervene in our free will unless we give them permission. But they can if it is going to end up in the destruction of this planet, because it doesn't just affect this planet, it affects the galaxy and galaxies thereon. And the way the New World Order sounds is just, it's all about it's gonna F the world. And they did say that they wouldn't allow the vaccines to happen. They wouldn't allow the New World Order. They wouldn't allow the 5G. They've already dismantled the 5G. Have we noticed that that's not a thing right now?
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, I mean, Andre, we had that session together where we, I asked about, and I probably butchered the name up, the Japan nuclear power plant. When we do sessions together, you don't know any of the questions. As such, there's a lot of blinds, which is always fun, because as the client, you surrender into it, because it's not about you, and you just, can allow them to come through with their wisdom. And it was so fantastic what they said, which was, they would have totally intervened if it was going to, if we were going to stay here. And it was, I thought it was just so beautiful. It was like, of course, why didn't I consider that? They control, they're saving us from ourselves, and it is so important. We are this big experiment that they're working with, and they want us to succeed this time. And, while we are doing not so fantastic things to the planet itself, they are fully in control. They've done so many things in the past to avoid us from, exploding ourselves. And I know so many people are still triggered with Atlantis. Is it Atlantis? Atlantis? Is it?
Atlantis?
Yeah. So many people are still feeling very vulnerable to that. But in that situation, it wasn't so fantastic, because there was control and dictatorship and a whole lot of other stuff. But this time, it's not going to be like that. So it's just a big old... It's a journey, and I feel very muddled right now trying to talk about all of this stuff, and my trust in the information that comes out of sessions is very high, because I know that I'm still struggling with certain things. So when my higher self, or when a collective comes in and talks about certain things again and again and again, I realize that it's not just them supporting my belief system. They're not triggering me, but they're reminding me of the bigger purpose and the bigger truth here. And that's the same with all of my clients, as well as me being the client. So they don't just support our belief systems, while they don't tell us stuff that we're not ready to hear as such. When someone is desperately wanting to know about, the new earth and a whole lot of stuff, they will tell the clients what they should know. And so while there is a little bit of leaping of growth of information in sessions, they know best. They definitely know best. And even if my clients didn't really want to know because they were nervous of, oh gosh, I did swear 5 times and I, whatever, I don't feel like I'm worthy of going to New Earth, because this was a genuine concern for a lot of people. Am I worthy to go to New Earth? And, I guess that's just the state of how we are made to feel in general, not worthy of anything good. We've been so kind of like beaten down and ridiculed and criticized, and having to compare ourselves to others who are fake. Anyway, I think I'm losing my thought of track here, but there is so much confirmation in these sessions that aren't from my clients' conscious minds. And this is what I really want to impress, is that while we all individually feel like we're making it up to some degree because, we're not asleep, we're not repeating our conscious minds information. There is definitely a higher perspective, higher beings that are coming through and talking through our bodies, which is...
It's so interesting you say that, because I was just thinking there has been a few times in my sessions where I've been wanting to hear a specific answer, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to be great, I'm going to hear this answer. And then the complete opposite of what I wanted to hear has come out. And that's been really interesting for me, because at the end I'm like thinking, oh, I didn't realize that obviously I'm just a terrible person. You know what I mean? So that's really interesting. But I think the biggest thing for me, as someone who's gone under a few times, is how quickly my mindset has changed in the last month that I've been doing this.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, actually, and how much more chilled out I am, and how less involved in the material world I am. I used to be very much into my hair, into the gym, into this and that, and now I'm not seeing as much importance in that. So it's like, taking care of yourself, yeah, but there's a bigger purpose to all of this, and that's something that's really changed my life in the short time that I've been doing this. And I think it comes from all this sort of the healing that happens in a session, and the upgrades, or we'll say upgrades, but sort of advancements, or energetic sort of shifts that happen when you're in these sessions, and when you listen to the sessions as well, because it happened when I was listening to the sessions before I'd ever had one. In that time, I had a massive shift in my consciousness by just listening to the sessions.
I just want to say, I don't feel like many people actually truly need sessions anymore. When you've been listening to all of these sessions, in my opinion, and my personal opinion is, if you've been listening to all of these sessions, your intuition should be on fire in a really good, positive way, like on point. And you should be able to go within and be able to ask yourself, where you're going, like, are you going to the highest, going to the new earth? And you should be able to do so much because you've done so much inner work with listening to these. They keep saying repeatedly that they are upgrading us when we're listening to this. There's an energy exchange, and it's, I don't feel like people really need their own personal sessions, really, because there is so much information that they share that you should be able to, if you apply the information, should be able to give you all those answers. And in terms of the growth, yes, I mean, people who are still obsessed with their personal appearance, there's still some work there, unfortunately, because you've got to accept your bodies for how they are. And, that was a beautiful thing. Once again, it reminds me of your session, Andre, where they were like, love and embrace your wrinkles, or your, who you are, and how they see us as these, these perfect beings. It's us again, expecting perfection because we have been told this is what perfection is. And we are once again using our minds to follow the leader, which is corrupt and not healthy and is disempowering us rather than empowering us to say, you're all individual, beautiful unicorns that deserve everything in the world that is good and positive.
Yeah, totally. Um, and that is, I think, one of the hardest things about going through this existence. Not for everybody, but for some people, when you don't love yourself and love you yourself for with all your, we'll call them inverted commas, imperfections, it can be actually quite a treacherous, tormented life, because you are being told by every corrupt system out there who just want your money, that you are not good enough, and you're not worthy unless you have this product, or unless you are this way, or unless you do this thing. Um, and I think, you know what, you're so right. Like, I think the number one message out of all this information that you've been getting over your years, and we've been getting since we've been doing the information about the new earth, has been, through all of this, love yourself, and value, know your worth and value your worth, because they don't see us like we see ourselves. You know, they see us like they made us, which is perfect and beautiful and amazing. And they see our energy, and they see who we are, that bigger than this earth life, you know.
Yeah. And so, it's we can see things from the bigger picture, but then, applying it to every scenario that we're living, it's kind of, it is a beautiful journey. And we mustn't beat ourselves up if we're at a sticking point. It's just more growth. And once you recognize the areas where you need to grow, celebrate it, because I think I get really bored. I think this is the part where we've got a little bit unmotivated with life, when we're like, we know things are happening, how do we navigate forward and kind of find the joy and stuff when we're a little bit like, ho hum, is it December yet? you know and that's not the appropriate approach. We should be still finding the joy. It's what they keep saying, finding the joy in the smaller things, because we assume that New Earth is going to be exactly like this without the corruption. But I have a feeling that there is a lot of different things happening on the New Earth, which is, more wholesome, and there's adjustments there. And so for the people who are assuming we're going to be having all of the whatevers that we rely on, it's going to be completely different. It's just, everything we know is going to change. So without freaking ourselves out with that, enjoy what we do have right now, because who knows what's around the corner. Did
Yeah.
that freak you out?
Pardon me?
Did that freak you out?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I will struggle with not having pizza and pasta carbonara on the new earth, but you know what? I'll have apples with custard in them. So
Did you say that you would have pizza on the new earth? Like, we can, like, I think what I'm sort of struggling with is, because right now it's ideas and concepts about the new earth, right? But I haven't been able to physically place myself there. While I have sensed the energy there, while I have heard about it in kind of thoughts, I physically haven't felt being on there, which I know you can't until you're there. And I know they also say, they kind of keep saying to me is, could you stop thinking about it, because you're distracting yourself from this current situation here, like, focus on what you've got now and not go into dreamland about down the track. And so, I know I need to focus on the 3D still, and support the people around me here, and support myself through this, and learn as much as I can while we've got this little time left. But it still feels very surreal, very, very surreal.
yeah. But in saying that, uh, it has given me this. Not now, it's like we're in the middle of lockdown, like I haven't been able to go like skydiving or anything, but it has given me this inspiration or this motivation to accomplish some of the little things in life that I have wanted to do for my whole life, like make a buff bourguignon. And only today I made fresh pasta from scratch, second time successful. Didn't happen very well last night, complete disaster, but I gave it a go again today, and it was delicious. And that for me has been one of the biggest things of my life, because first of all, it's really hard. And second of all, it's something I've wanted to do since I was a little kid, thinking, oh, I'll do it one day, I'll do it one day, I'll do it one day. And then I kind of thinking, oh my God, I've got to make this goddamn pasta before I move off this planet, because it's not going to happen in the same way. And I did it. And it was like so life affirming for me. I was just like, I can't believe I did this. And so I'm using this as motivation to start enjoying and doing some things. The next stop is this zucchini pasta or salad thing that I've heard about that I can't wait to make. But you know, yeah, so it's really, I'm trying to enjoy life as much as I can now, and take joy in the little things like pasta cutting and stuff like that.
I can really feel the love.
Sorry,
I can really feel the love that you'd be adding into that meal for yourself with that appreciation. And well done you not giving up after the first fail, because I think we all get very disappointed with the first fail of things. So it must be an extra joy to be successful after the first.
Yeah, and it's that thing, isn't it? Is of, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And I tried the second time, and I nearly didn't succeed this time because I didn't coat the pasta in flour, and then it all stuck to itself and it all ripped apart. But then I figured it out, and it's all good, and the crisis averted. It was the biggest thing that was happening in the world today was my pasta. I'm just saying. And
well, how can you worry about 3D stuff when pasta is important? So yeah,
you know what I mean. But you know, the one thing I want to say that I'm a huge advocate for, and that I keep saying to all my friends, and it just keeps hitting me as we've been talking all through this about sort of people and their own journeys, is do not be hard on yourself. It's so easy to get down on yourself because you've not done something right, or you're not being the most spiritual, or you're not doing this, or you didn't meditate today, or you swore at your dog or something. You know, it's like, we need to accept that we are living in this 3D world, and part of that 3D world is doing things that are 3D, like the good and the bad. And we get so hard on ourselves. And I have been, a big part of my awakening was that I was so hard on myself, always in my head, trying to do everything perfectly, and it nearly killed me. Isn't
the problem though that we've been constantly told how we should be? And it's so refreshing, and the bigger messages with these higher beings that come in to give us these messages, the same thing that they really want us to understand, apart from drinking as much water as we possibly can without drowning ourselves internally. And I don't know that we actually should ask what the ideal amount of water is, because I know they keep saying drink as much water as possible, and I feel like, have I drunk enough today? Anyway, so yeah.
Imagine it was like 1 liter.
Acing it, yeah. That's why I used to ask all my clients originally is, how much sleep do they need? Because actually we don't need as much as we think. And that's the whole reason why people get, okay, there's another story. Anyway, the consistent thing that they keep telling us is love ourselves, unconditionally love ourselves. And, when we're constantly being told how we should do X, Y, and Z to be, perfect, spiritual being. I've heard the most ridiculous things about how we can be the most spiritual, and check ourselves. Are we following our lives to someone else's dictatorship of how we should be? Because this is a huge thing, regardless of whoever it is, whether it's mainstream media or some guru telling us that we must be meditating 75 hours a day. Check our information. Who are we relying on for the information? Who are we relying on the truth? Is it from ourselves? Because any guilt or anything that we feel less about ourselves, is it because someone that we believe or trust has been telling us X, Y, and Z? And the consistent information from the sessions is love ourselves. And I think that is the most important. And how could that be wrong? And if you love yourselves, then you can use your own intuition to guide what's truly best for you. What's truly best for Andre may not always be truly best for Jo, because if she eats that much pizza, she would explode. And also, I just want to say, it would be my sort of version of how to be skydiving. What crazy monkey wants to do skydiving? Life is already adrenaline full. Who on earth could? That's not my cup of tea, I'm sorry. But I will be cheering on you when you land on Earth. That would be fantastic. But you're right. We all have a lot of things that we assumed we would be able to do. I've got preschool children. I'm, potentially not going to be able to see them do the things that, I assumed that I would be. I've gardened that I haven't planted for my summer flowers because, I'm preparing myself emotionally and physically for the coming shift and have to surrender into it, and, go with what is the best use of my time. So, moving forward here is a very interesting experience, because I have to trust the information that's coming out of my own sessions, and it's a lot to ask. But my intuition and my faith in this information, makes sense, everything that they're telling us. And the few times where I've got a bit confused and thought, I don't know if I can trust this information, it truly has been because I have not been able to see it from the bigger picture, and I've got a block there. They've never been wrong in sessions. While I still, had to process them telling us the 8th for the broadcast, I have been told that that was on track. That was going to be the 8th, but then, things changed behind the scenes that didn't allow it to happen. And so, whatever purpose for that delay, I don't believe for a second that they were fucking with us. Like there were lessons there, absolutely. And there's also other things that we can't factor in. We can't see the bigger picture. Is it because I'm not asking every single point of reference of what we have to wait for? Part of it is my responsibility to ask all the bigger questions. And, just like how they said that Trump's going to win with a landslide. Did I say, is there going to be any hiccups there, or is it going to be on the night of the election? Like, I didn't ask the finer details about how to get there and what to do there, because part of me doesn't really care about the election. I'm sorry, folks. I don't. I trust that they're protecting us regardless of whoever wins. I have faith that it is going to be that, that gives me the greatest joy, trusting that we are protected and that we're not alone, and that, this is playing out so people can naturally awaken up. So call me crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And you know what? I think no matter the scope of creation and what it actually is and what actually is going on behind the scenes, it's something that we cannot comprehend with our human minds. It's something that we probably can't even comprehend until we're source. You know what I mean? I'd say even the highest archangels are going, I wonder what that means. I wonder this. Oh, I didn't ask source the right question there,
We
Like,
look like such stupid monkeys when we are like struggling and having these emotional drama fits. And, our higher selves must be looking down at us going, here they are again, trying to nut out the universe, like silly, like what fools, just focus on the smaller things that you've got on your plate, which is dealing with the low emotions,
I have this vision of our higher selves like massaging their temples, like smoking like what the fuck.
This is why they're so tolerant with us, because we are just little children in their eyes, like we're asking questions that feel really big to us. And, in the reality of things, we're little children tagging on their pants going, can I have another cookie? And, they're dealing with like big, major, big things. And yeah, I feel sometimes embarrassed. And this is what actually does lock me into asking some bigger questions, because I feel like, am I just going to embarrass myself again by asking this repetitive question or this 3D question? Or, I probably worry too much, but I'm human, and I need comfort from their answers, and their answers are always very comforting to me. So, that gives me joy in hearing their responses. So
Yeah, and also another thing to note as well is that we're not trying to put out a specific narrative. We're not trying to ask specific questions to create a story ourselves. We sort of just do it and see what comes, and then we put it up as it comes out as well. So it's like the information that comes out is what comes out in the session. They're not edited in or edited out, or that kind of thing. So it is the rawest, truest information coming straight from the source of the information.
Definitely have been editing out. So the thing is, when I'm a client, I actually don't really recall was said in the information. I'm so relaxed. I don't care what's coming out. And I just surrender. And I'm terrified that my conscious mind would come in and be like giving Joe advice. And Joe advice is not exactly fantastic. So, I don't want to be getting my conscious mind in the mix of there. It's just, I don't want to own the information. I want the pure information to come through, and I would never want my opinions to block anything. That would be like my worst case scenario nightmare situation. So this one time where I was a client and, we finished the session and I trim up it and edit it down. Like I cut the beginning part of the induction and then the end part where, I come out, and I posted it on YouTube and then went straight into a session, and I'm, dealing with a client. And then suddenly I'm remembering what I actually experienced in that session, which was Princess Diana seeing a satanic ritual experience. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, in a session, I can't do anything. And I know that is on YouTube. And I am like sweating, and I'm like, oh my God, because I know it wasn't my information. I was not making that stuff up. That was really uncomfortable. It was a horrible experience. But I was like, oh my God, I would have actually thought about it and maybe not have posted that, because it was so full on. And it was really awkward to experience that, let alone then share it. But it was already out by the time I had finished the session. There was like 500 views of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's really not fantastic information to share, but it was in the session. And you're right. Like, I don't want to control what gets put out there. And, it's not my information. I'm merely the monkey that is posting shit onto Facebook sorry, not Facebook, YouTube. So, I'm just doing their services. And it was, I would have definitely held back. There has been some information that I haven't shared because it's not groundbreaking and it doesn't necessarily need to be shared. It's no big deal. And of course, none of my private sessions with clients get shared either, because it's private. It's their information that they, want to keep private to themselves. So it's, well, I'm not trying to control it. There are some moments where I was like, whoops, that was a bit embarrassing. Well, not embarrassing, but it's like, it did feel a lot of big gossip in that one.
Yeah, because it's like, oh God, did I just say that? Oh, that's big information to be talking about, like,
Yeah, well, because now I just trust the information. I don't listen back. I used to listen to the sessions and then sort of decide, so should this be, should this be left in? Is this too much? Can people cope with this? And then, I realized, why am I the judge of what people can handle? Like, you're going to resonate it with it or not. And they keep saying in other sessions, they're bringing people who are needing to hear this information. So I'm doing them a disservice by like, well, I don't know if you can handle it, kids. It's like, no, obviously Joe can't handle it if I'm like all queasy about the information. So, I've got to grow up too and respect this work and respect the people listening. And, so many people have sort of said to me, well, obviously your work's not, you're obviously, there's something interesting about your work. It resonates with me, but, look, you don't have a huge following. So, that kind of says it all for me, really. Like, it's interesting information, but you're not very popular. So I'm going to take the information with a grain of salt. And I'm like, totally take the information with a grain of salt. I don't care. I've never been about popularity. I mean, this is the very first time I've actually talked about the sessions in this format. Now, because I never wanted to be the voice of this work. I never wanted my conscious mind to be like, hey guys, this is how I'm processing it. Some days it's hard, some days it's fucking fantastic. I don't want to be all ego in your face, sharing my limited information and understanding of this work, because, I'm still human. I'm still trying to process this. And I think the hardest thing that I've had to overcome is people personally blaming me for the information that is coming from the sessions, when I know it's just their lack of understanding from whatever perspective they're working from. Like, just because it comes through my mouth doesn't mean I'm the owner of the information. So a lot of times people are emailing me or, contacting me, just making me they're demanding that I justify the information that has been coming from the sessions. And it's like, well, first of all, I don't own this information. This is a higher perspective, and sort of take it or leave it. I'm not having to handhold anyone through it. I'm still processing it myself. So a lot of people have demands that aren't necessarily justified, but that's okay. It's all learning.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well,
Mm.
it's really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting stuff. And it's been like an unbelievable experience having going through all of this with you. For me as well, it feels like a huge honor that I get um, to be a part of this and to get this information, and to also just have heard all the sessions as well has been incredible, because um, while there's a lot of people who have heard the sessions, it's only a very small number of people with regards to how many are in the world right now. And if everybody could just hear this information, I feel like, things would be really, really different.
Yeah, but then are they really ready for it?
Well,
And
that's it.
yeah, and that's kind of people are going. I definitely feel like there's a lot of people that are fully awoke and awake, and they've never heard of anything on YouTube or Facebook. Like they've probably got more of a chance actually if they are completely off any social media, and they're with one in nature. I feel like those people are blessed to have such a privileged life to not actually have to worry about the dramas, the fake dramas of the world. So yeah, it has been an incredible journey, and I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to learn along with everyone else, and definitely be human and feel all of the emotions. And now I am learning patience and compassion to people who are still learning, because from what's been told in sessions, when the truth comes out about the election, and then the truth comes out about like all of the industries that have been corrupt and really impacting us in a really negative way. I mean, that's a big blow. That's a big blow. And I feel like, the broadcast could be ages away. Yet I feel like it would be a really uncomfortable situation to have everyone awoke, and then still deal with the 3D people who are still going to be pretty unpleasant to deal with. Not judging, but assuming they're going to be challenging to deal with. And then, how long do we want to be in that environment for? Everyone now seems to be managing, and we're kind of struggling, but we're okay-ish. I kind of want to be in this situation of okay-ish until as long as we can, really. My children are still, at school and preschool, and we're still kind of living I mean, I know you're in a lockdown right now, Andre, and I feel like New Zealand's going to probably be in a lockdown soon, potentially. Who knows? Not interested enough to ask in a session, but it is all very interesting how it's all going to unfold. And they keep telling us ages ago to just be in the higher perspective and not let our emotions crash down upon us, and remember the bigger picture. And I kind of assumed at that point they were telling us about being preparing for the shift to the new earth and the natural disasters. And then all this other stuff kind of seemed to jump out at us and kind of distract us from that information. So there's still a lot going on, and yeah, I don't know how I would feel, if that timeline, if the December shift doesn't happen. I don't even know what life is going to be looking like by this time next month, let alone this time in 2 months' time. Like I keep asking in sessions, and they keep saying it's December, and I keep, now I'm getting to the point where, well, I know about time, guys, about time. What is the chances of it changing? And they are very, very firm that it's not possible for that time to change. So, I'm still going to keep asking, because I don't want to be assuming anything.
Mm.
So, that's what it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So just to summarize, the Earth is dying. We have to evacuate from this planet. We're evolving, and some of us get into crystalline bodies, and that's going to be fantastic. So, any
And
questions? Not to freak anyone out. Yeah, but it's a lot of process.
yeah, it really is. It really is. And you know, you wouldn't be shot for having days of doubt and days of worry and panic. It's all part of the process, and it's all just part of it. It's just learning how to pick yourself back up and get yourself back on track.
Yeah, and remember that it's never just us. It's never just you. Even when we're, when we're alone and we're feeling like, we're having those darker moments, they're there watching us, really creepy like, in the
Yeah.
closets and under your beds. No, they don't like interfere with us that way. But we are there if we call on them, they're there. And we're really truly never alone. And when you're not feeling like you're loved, if you don't love yourself, then the chances are you're not going to call on for help because you don't feel like you're worthy of it. And we've all been there, let's be honest. We've all feel really down in the dumps, and this is something we don't need to feel anymore. And they keep saying to love yourselves, and that they're always there for us, even though they're invisible. We can sense them, and this is why they keep asking for us to have time out for ourselves, to really settle our minds and to feel within. They're not outside of us, they're all within us. And so this is a huge thing. A lot of my clients have said, I've been trying to meditate, but I'm not hearing anyone. And I keep saying, where do you feel like they are? And they're like, oh, across that room on the couch. And then we have a session and they understand finally that, everything's within us. The answers are within us. It's like somehow in our minds, within our hearts, the universe lays there. Don't tell me how that works. I don't know, but it's a figurative kind of, it's an analogy, but it is true. All the information is within us, and if we live through our hearts and love each other and love ourselves more than we think about, well, are we really worthy? What do we look like now? Or have we done anything bad? Our minds, our conscious minds, are not really our best friends, truthfully.
Yeah.
Well, uncontrolled ones, I should say. If you don't have full love of yourself, then they're a little bit of a judgy bitch. And so our conscious minds need to be controlled a bit, because, if we keep telling ourselves we're not worthy, and that's the repeat of our conscious mind, we have some mind training to focus on. And that negative self-talk can be so feral. It can be really, really naughty.
Yeah, it really, really can. It really can. And I always try to, once I start having a negative thought, I try to sort of counterbalance it with two positive thoughts. And that actually does work. Sometimes you have to really force it, but it does work. When I think, oh, I'm too short. I think, yeah, but you have lovely hair and you have nice shoes on. It's like simple as that. It really works. So I
Okay.
think that's a nice note to end on, that love yourself
You're
moment.
not too short, you're perfect. And I think everyone can say that. So
Oh.
you sound perfectly above average height.
You have a lovely height. Yeah.
You
Well,
sound like
thank
you're a
you.
great height. Yeah. Okay. Well, if to anyone that's still listening, thank you for sharing our conscious minds. And this has been hopefully entertaining, hopefully not annoying, and hopefully you can feel just as normal as us, whatever that means.
Yeah, because we're going through it too. We
Yeah,
truly are.
totally. Yeah. This roller coaster is amazing. But it's better when we are out of fear and we can see it from a bigger picture and have remembering the purpose of life and remembering balance and feeling neutral with everything that's going on around us. And the session I did this morning was fantastic in terms of what the message was. The best thing about being down is building yourself back up. And that empowerment of going back up that emotional ladder again. That's beautiful. Like the think about it being on a roller coaster, and you've gone all that way down, and then that massive boom drive force of just going up again. The acceleration of a car, for example, it's thrilling, it's exhilarating, and picking ourselves back up and knowing that we can have the power to keep ourselves down or to lift ourselves up is powerful. We're totally in control of ourselves, really.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
lovely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andre. You beautiful.
Thank you, Joanne.
Who's super tall, with great hair. I love you, my friend. It was amazing to connect with you and share just our vulnerabilities together, and share this with other people. So
yeah, and you too. Yeah, it was so great. I love you too. Lots and lots of love. And to all of you listening, I've always wanted to say that to everyone out there listening. I love you all.
You're such a lover. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a fantastic day.